What up, internet? SD reporting from inside the car before I go into the house. Because children are loud creatures. As I was on my way home, was thinking, like, in life, some people want to be in front of the limelight, you know? You want to be a Kanye West, you want to be a Jay-Z's, you want to be a Lil Uzi Verts, you want to be a Bluefaces. Nobody wants to be Blueface. Maybe someone does want to be Blueface, but don't be Blueface. But I realized, like, from a young age, and I will tell that story someday. I never strived to be in the limelight. I never wanted to be on stage performing to an audience. I've always wanted to be a background dancer. Like, and I'll get deeper into that. But then thinking as a producer, like, everyone heard Kanye West shouted out about Jay-Z. And you knew what Kanye West looked like because, like, he was everywhere. But then I was a person that was like, but who's Just Blaze? Like, who's this dude that Jay-Z is yelling out? And then hear this giant banger like come from through the speakers, whatever I was using to listen to. But then I was also a person who was like, who's Guru? Like, when he was like, yo, Guru turn. And I knew that was something you did in music. Like, there's someone recording this. Yo, who's this Guru dude? And then that's when I got into, like, now remember when they sold CDs, you know, in the CDs, you had liner notes in the CD covers. And you could look up who made the tracks. Now it's just Wikipedia, or you go to the website. But one of the joyous things for me in that music era was looking up who made things. Like, and that's when I'm like, man, there's a whole career of people who ain't even on stage. Like, one of the first albums I remember looking up was Dr. Dre, Chronic 2001. And, like, wondering who Scott Storch was, wondering who Mahogany was, wondering what Mike Elianzondo. I can never pronounce that man's name right, but he's the engineer. And then Blueprint, and then going out who's Guru, who's Bink, who's Tone and Poke. I can't remember. That's another name I can't remember. But then when Kanye West, I remember, not College Dropout, but Late Registration came out. And I was all in the liner notes. And I'm like, well, who's this cat named John Bryan? But then this one name kept popping up everywhere besides all the other producers. His name was Mike Dean. And he was everywhere. He was engineering, he was playing piano, he was playing guitar. And I'm like, who's that guy? And I think, like, granted, with people who make music, that's still a thing. Like, with producers, looking in the liner notes is still a thing. Like, granted, I have to go to Wikipedia or a website to find it. But, like, if the new Kanye West album just dropped, I'm looking at, like, who made this? Who wrote this? Who produced this? Who did this? Who did what? Because in my head, yeah, Kanye West is genius. But who's the geniuses around him? Like, Mike Dean is amazing at adding those things. Like, if you just think of Travis Scott, look at the liner notes. Like, who's helping Travis Scott create the sound that he wants to make? A lot of that's Mike Dean. A lot of Dr. Dre's that made this stuff is his engineers. Like, granted, Dre is the genius. Kanye is the genius. But the engineer sometimes is the one that's putting it together. Like, yeah, they thought of it, but who's actually piecing it together? And that's the side that I fell in love with. That's why I like engineering. Like, I was just listening to an old project, and the last 2 days I've been listening to old projects, and for me, that's the thing that I remember that I enjoyed, is figuring out how to fix either issues with the project or how to put it together. Like, my guy Riddle, we could I wish we could document the story of how his project came to be, because it shouldn't have. I had to piece together a project for his first one, Life of a Wandering Child. RJ Riddle, look him up. I had to piece it together, like, as an engineer, had to take pieces that was lost or just not recorded correctly, or the files were corrupted, or the files were, something was missing, and had to piece it together. And then as a producer, remake songs and that's the part that I love. Like, I remember as a kid I remember we had to do Brer Rabbit, and I played like a bush or something, and it gave me like terrible. Like now I know there's anxiety, and I'm just like, I don't want to do this. There's people looking at me. I don't like it. And as a person who did live sound, still don't like it. I hate being on stages. I'd rather just be manning the soundboard or in the back or manning cameras. But it's like but then I'm like, but who's the stage crew? Like, I want to be a person pulling the curtain. I want to be a person manning. Like, the first time someone let me man a spotlight for a play that my church was putting on, man, I was lost my mind. I thought I was big time. From then on, background. Who's man? Like Wizard of Oz, who's the man behind the curtain? What are you doing pulling all these strings with all this fire coming out? Because the stars are the stars. They're going to be the stars. But never forget, there's a whole support team. There's a whole team of people that you'll never see, that rarely get appreciated, rarely get talked about. One of the great ones. Listen to early Kendrick, and you'll hear him talking to someone like, "Hey, Ali, you come out the studio." Who's kicking people out the studio? Oh yeah, Ali, his engineer. That's just funny whenever I hear that, because I'm like, what was she doing for her to get kicked out the studio? But Ali kicked her out, and I had to, as an engineer, sometimes they bother an artist. You gotta go. I'm gonna hit you with this mic stand. And not as many niggas as last time. I don't even think I said niggas until now.